Welcome to the SoleSavy podcast. My name is Marco Henry Negrete, and today I'm joined by UCLA student athlete and quarterback for their football team, Chase Griffin. Chase, thanks for joining us.
Thank y'all for having me on the show.
Definitely. I want to talk to you because I've been seeing you in headlines basically since the NIL name and likeness update to the NCAA came to be a few months ago. It seems like you along with other UCLA athletes, to be honest, have been really leading that charge from a student athlete perspective, locking down deals with a number of companies. So I really wanted to see how that came about, what that experience has been like as a student athlete, really doubling into this new frontier for college sports. And of course, this being a SoleSavy podcast, I have to ask a little bit about playing at UCLA and repping that jump man on the field these days too. So we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I want to start off with the NIL news that came out earlier this year. It seems like you were quick to jump on that. Was that something you as a student athlete was preparing for, or did you guys just kind of learn about it and then educate yourself as fast as possible in order to act on it?
Right. Well, I just want to first off start out by thanking those who came before us, who led the fight on getting NIL to be passed. There were a lot of lawyers, a lot of student athletes and former student athletes, such as Ed O'Bannon, who won a national championship at UCLA, who really led the charge. And I just want to say thank you to them. As far as me getting deals, of course, the whole country was planning on that ruling coming down and providing NIL nationally for student athletes. And I think my experience already being a brand representative, growing up in high school, I was sort of the face of my school, the face of my town. I had already done 100 interviews just like this in high school. And so I had a long experience of being a brand ambassador with brands like Gatorade, Ford Texas Player of the Year. I was on the In-N-Out Player of the Year award, the Whataburger Super Team. So I already had a long experience in high school of both having camera time and representing brands. So additionally to that, once I got to UCLA, which is in the sports market of the country, I was able to create a name and a reputation here by both being proficient on and off the field in school, in my social interactions, and I just built a name for myself. And brands that reach out to me know that I'm going to deliver a good product, and so I take every single opportunity that's given to me full steam ahead. And anything that I can do to continue to build my reputation and stay true to myself and what I'm about, I think it brings more attention in a good way.
Definitely. You mentioned Ed O'Bannon, which I had for later down the line, but let's get into it now. I saw him shout you out on Twitter as, again, really one of the first person to step up and question some of these policies. Were you able to have a conversation with him privately or link up with him about his continuous fight and how you're carrying that torch now?
Not yet, but Mr. O'Bannon, if you're watching this, I'm completely down. This off season, I'd definitely like to reach out.
Awesome. And I know you've racked up a lot of deals that first and foremost are authentic to you and in the image that you want to portray. Can we run down some of the deals that have that you've locked in since the NIL policy came into play?
Absolutely. So I was on the Degree Breaking Limits team. I did a quick ad for Shell and ESPN for the Fan Showdown. I'm on the Clear Cover Inspired Underdog team. I did partnership with Duffel. I did a deal with Discord, and a deal with Boost Mobile. But the deal that I'm very excited to have brought out, I'm grateful for all of them, but my deal with UWG, Uniworld Global, was definitely a large pride of mine, and that's because working with UWG, we're using NIL for good. In all instances, a piece of the money received for the deal went to the LA Food Bank backpack program. I actually toured the LA Food Bank yesterday, and it was great. They're a great operation. That money is going to good use to feed children on the weekends. What I got from the UWG deal was that we're able to create an enrichment program. So the NIL program, the NIL enrichment program, where student athletes who had previously not been able to use their NIL for economic mobility now can. There's a large percentage of student athletes, especially ones that excelled and received high coverage, historically come from backgrounds where they're less fortunate, and to be able in college to use their platform to create economic mobility for themselves and their family is an unprecedented opportunity, and one that's long overdue that we're going to capitalize on. So I really look at three things when it comes to my deals. Number one, does it go with my morals? Number two, is it economically reasonable for me to take the deal? Is it worth my time and energy, especially during season? And number three is, how does it fare for the community? Is it good for the community around me? Can I use it in order to better others? And as long as the deal fits those three criteria, I definitely take full advantage of it and give my all to it.
Yeah, I saw that the LA Food Bank work that you've been doing has been really well received. Is that something that you make clear at the very first conversation with potential partners? Like, hey, community. There's a community aspect that needs to be a part of this.
So I think anytime a business or an entity would want to go on a deal with me, they definitely check my social media. So part of my, I guess, online resume, you could say, is that a portion of the money that I receive in these NIL deals is given to the LA Food Bank backpack program. Additionally, furthermore, if there's a company, and really all the companies I've worked with have been great, but if there's a company that has indicated that they're inclined to contribute to this relationship that I have to the LA Food Bank, I know that the Boost Mobile deal was even bigger than just the deal I did with them. Working with Boost Mobile, we're going to bring in a substantial amount of dollars to go towards the program. And just being able to use my platform and use the relationships that I create through NIL to reach the max amount of people in a way where previously I would not have been able to do that is just a huge blessing.
Yeah, and it seems almost fitting that well, even though there's a lot of major programs across the country and schools that are helping lead the charge here, it does seem fitting that people and like you from UCLA would be at the forefront of that as well, given the Ed O'Bannon story and all of that. I've also noticed, on the hoop side and other programs at UCLA have been stepping up on this. Have you noticed, like, either whether it's teammates or other student athletes, are you guys working together on finding the best possible deals and situations for each other? Have other athletes reached out to you for advice?
I mean, real recognize real. So anytime I see like Tiger Campbell go get a deal at Fast Sal's, it's always exciting. Definitely, as far as UCLA goes, we have a very historic tradition, especially regarding student athletes. That's part of the reason why I'm so inclined to use my NIL for good, because I know those who came before me who used their platform for extraordinary things. You have Jackie Robinson, who I believe embodies UCLA better than anyone ever could. And he is one of the main proponents for ending segregation. Then you have people like Arthur Ashe, who fought apartheid and funded large amounts of AIDS research. Then you have Jackie Joyner Kersee, who built a foundation for the youth back in our hometown. You have Ralph Bunche, who brokered a literal peace treaty in the Middle East in 1948 and received the Nobel Prize for it. So there's a long history of student athletes building up platforms because of their greatness on and off the field at UCLA. And then I think it's really more about what you do with this platform once you receive it. And I'm trying to use mine to reach the most amount of people in the best way that I can.
Definitely. And one of the, I think the titles that suits you, that people see from you first is student athlete. And I know you were able to complete your degree in 2 years and now working on a graduate degree. The story that you did with the Los Angeles Times mentioned that you cap your NIL stuff to about 3 hours a week so you can focus on academics and focus on football. So talk to us a little bit about your studies and what you're doing now in your graduate program.
Right. So right now I'm in the transformative coaching and leadership program. It's part of the School of Education. And it's been great as an athlete who's loved sports my whole life. One of my classes is learning about the history of sport. And you see how sport really originated as a byproduct of human nature. And I think there's a large reason why so many of us have strong emotions tied to sport. A lot of the games mimic what we had to do to survive. And so there's definitely a visceral connection towards sport. And then another class I'm in is discussing diversity in sport and inclusion in sport. And a lot of those lessons transfer further than just the dotted lines or the hashes of a football field. Inclusion and diversity are pillars of what makes UCLA great. I believe equity, diversity, and inclusion set the floor and the ceiling for how great an entity can be. Everything really falls back on values. So in my graduate studies, I've been able to build upon a lot of the skills that I've already built at the Luskin School of Public Affairs, where I did my undergrad, which was great. I definitely had a strong experience there where data management or whether it be studying demographics or opportunity zones in order to help the widest range of people. I've been really fortunate with my path at UCLA, I think, to maximize what makes UCLA great for me. And part of that are the values that are learned here, the values that this institution rests itself on and contributing to society. And I think that UCLA is a special place, and my path in it has definitely magnified the amount of truly progressiveness and world-changing ability that this institution has had over time.
Definitely. And I think when it comes to UCLA, a world-renowned university, they don't have the worst or trouble recruiting people to go to a school like that or to a sports program like that. But with this added incentive of sounds like some great resources for student athletes on the NIL side, do you see this becoming a trend across universities where the schools will start to offer formal resources to prospective student athletes? If you come here, we will set you up with someone that can help you on the NIL side from a legal standpoint, from a marketing standpoint. Do you see that becoming a trend in the recruiting side of college sports?
I think NIL will definitely be a resource for recruiting going forward, and the amount of deals that are generated. Frankly, in my situation, I've been grateful for the almost amount of deregulation. A lot of the opportunities at hand right now aren't regulated or through the school, but are directly from the brand to myself. Mm-hmm. Really, all the deals that I've received. And I'm grateful for that, just because for the longest, the NCAA had been the only thing stopping deal flow between companies and student athletes. I think if they want to take a step back, it has to be all the way back. And I think discretion should always be in the hands of the student athlete. At the end of the day, it's their future, it's their bank account, it's their name, image, and likeness. And if there's another entity that is too involved in facilitating or too involved in hindering, then it defeats the point of all the people who work so hard to get this passed. So I think if a school is going to intervene, it has to be completely for the benefit of the student athlete. Otherwise, it's counterproductive.
What sort of plans or conversations have you had with other student athletes, whether they're at UCLA or other organizations, to create resources like that for incoming students to make sure that the university stays kind of hands off? Because as you mentioned, anytime you have a third entity coming in here, you run the risk of maybe some conflict in priorities. Have you guys started to think about a student-led resource or agency of some sorts for people in the future?
I haven't been too involved in that. I've mainly been formally involved with UWG, which is one of the power brokers of advertisement in all of television and media. So that's really been my lane. As far as if I were just giving my own advice to a student athlete embarking on their NIL journey, I would say this: it's very similar to the advice that I would give a high schooler asking me how to get offers, and it's this. The offers will take care of themselves. The NIL deals will take care of themselves, but it comes to your day-to-day operation. If you're living right and you're doing everything right and you're balling on the field and that's your focus and you're handling everything socially and in school, then the opportunities will come. It may not be as many opportunities as you want, which was the case in my case, but the right opportunity will come. And when it comes, you'll be ready for it. And so I think that too much of NIL, a lot of the excitement around it was, oh, I'm going to be getting this deal, this deal, this deal, which was definitely the way that some people went. For myself, I was focused on getting ready this season. And I think that the focus is what you put out into the world and what you get back, what you reap from your sowing season is the byproduct. And as long as I stay true to myself, stay true to what I want to do, I didn't come here to do deals. I came here to get a degree from the #1 public institution in America and to play and win a Rose Bowl for the UCLA Bruins. That's really why I came here. And as long as I keep the main thing, everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah, definitely. I do want to talk about that balance a little bit. Being a student athlete is already tough as it is, especially at a high pressure institution like UCLA, where on a weekly basis, what you do on the field and off the field is making headlines. What has that balance been like, this being your first full season as both a student as an athlete, and now as a leader in the NIL space and an endorser and a brand partner?
Right. I think it comes down to doing the same thing that I've always been doing. And that's staying excellent in everything. Football, I've not played it my whole life. Growing up, the first thing I got into was violin. So that's where I learned how to learn. And then I got into soccer. Soccer was my first love as far as sports go. I remember I had the Ronaldinhos. I was out there scoring 5 goals a game, and I was having fun with it. That was my passion. Then I got old enough to go to school, and that was my focus. So I think the common thread throughout all of my life is, #1, my faith, which keeps me grounded, keeps me humble, and keeps everything in perspective. It allows me to take a step back and say, what do I need to do today? Okay, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, because I do everything as if I'm doing it for God. So when it came to NIL, came to college, came to school, grad school for the first time, nothing changed. I'm shooting for a 4.0 in grad school. I'm shooting to win the Rose Bowl in football. And if and when I get NIL opportunities, I'm going to do them so well that businesses aren't going to have a choice but to reach out to me. And I think with taking that mindset, it simplifies everything. There isn't, oh, I need to give time to this, give time to this. Give the time, the amount that is required. And of course, I have priorities where school and football are above NIL. But when I do get chances to make the most out of NIL opportunities, I'm going to do so.
And a big, I guess, incentive for some of your partners to work with you has been your savviness on social media. You and I connected on LinkedIn, and I know that you are pretty active on other channels as well. When did you start to discover social media as more than just a way to connect with people and more in a way to build your brand? Was it in high school? Was it when you got to UCLA?
So I got into social media pretty early as a kid, and it's because when I was around 10 or 11, I ball boyed for the Elite 11 finals down in Redondo Union. A lot of those guys in that class are in the NFL now, still playing. But I didn't get everyone's phone numbers because I didn't have a phone number to give out at that point. I had just gotten a phone. So I wasn't privy on giving out my number and getting everyone's contact. But I wanted to keep up with all the guys that I met. A lot of these guys are still playing today, but they were all great. And I had such a fun time. I'm like, man, I want to keep up with what Christian Hackenberg's doing, or I want to keep up with what Jared Goff is doing. And so I created a Twitter so that I could follow them and DM them and get followed back and check up on what they're doing. And it sort of just evolved from there, where I saw the value in social media. My father really helped me, especially early on, building that out in a way and setting sort of a social media contract for me, where it's the rules, the do's and don'ts, where the kids often get themselves into trouble on social media. And so throughout years of practice of both just staying true to myself and representing myself the right way in real life on social media, trying to do the same thing. So it evolved from there.
There's been overwhelming positivity and support from pro athletes. I mean, LeBron being a pretty vocal one here in LA when the policy first passed. Have any pros reached out to you? Because it sounds like from their perspective that this is something that they felt like they were owed to, and they're really happy to see the next generation finally making it happen. Have you heard from any pro athletes on the support front?
I mean, there's definitely pro athletes that chime in from time to time that support me. As far as the NIL front, not that much. A lot of those guys are just genuine relationships that I've met over the years.
Awesome, man. And back to the social thing, I want to talk to you about your Discord that you just started. It sounded like us at SoleSavy and our audience. A lot of people are curious about this and want to hear more from you. How is that Discord going for you and educating people on this?
Oh, it's great. I'm definitely grateful for the opportunity to work with them. I was big into watching YouTubers and gaming, so I had already been privy to Discord before they reached out, which was great. But I think in this off season, I'll have a lot more time to actually get some face-to-face Q&A interaction with people on the app.
Definitely. And then again, I mentioned earlier, this is SoleSavy and we do live and breathe sneakers. I have to ask what it's like, because you started at UCLA when I would imagine that the Under Armour deal was still on the table, and now to see this momentum shift to Jordan Brand. What's that been like as an athlete? What's the reception been like with your teammates and just people on campus making that switch to the Jumpman?
Oh, it's been great. And then we even get tripped out when we see our own videos like, man, there's our AD Martin jumping up with the Jumpman. So it's definitely a blessing. I think it's a perfect match as far as brand alignment, the best with the best. And like I said, UCLA is truly a special institution. Jordan Brand is a special brand, and it's the right match.
Is there anything that stood out so far? I know you guys get a ton of gear. Is there anything that you gotten from the folks in Beaverton that stood out to you as like, wow, this is really cool. This is a UCLA with a Jumpman on it. I can't believe I'm wearing these shoes or this piece of apparel.
I mean, just having those two logos on the same apparel is great. The stuff we've gotten so far has been great, but we're really still waiting for the big haul. So we're excited for that.
Yeah, I bet, man. I can't wait to see what the brand does with those colors and that history and the amount of products that they're able to put out. But yeah, to wrap things up, Chase, I'd love to know what you have planned in the future. It sounds like you've been super busy kind of with the NIL stuff and graduate school and football. What does the future have in store for you?
I think in the long term, to put it in the simplest terms, I just want to build generational wealth. There's just a way of living and a way of support and provision that I want for myself and my future family. And I believe that I have the tools to go out there, as long as I stay true to myself and my faith, to achieve it. And transitioning from that, I think the more you have, the more you should give. And so I want to transition into public service and philanthropy and help as many people as I can. And finally do all of that while staying true to my faith, because at the end of the day, that's what got me here. That's what's going to get me to where I want to go in the future in life, and God willing, afterlife as well.
Awesome, man. Well, I know that you're a busy guy these days. You have games to prepare for, homework to do, and then a lot of commitments to different brands and speaking at Ad Week and things like this. I appreciate you taking some time to educate us on the NIL stuff and talk to us about your experience at UCLA. Thank you, Chase.
Thank you for having me, Marco.